Can games help us get what we want? Hey guys, thank you so much and welcome to the Game Your Future podcast. I'm Daniel and I am joined by a very special guest today. This is Andy Fankhauser, who is, and really, he really just helps people. He helps people get what they need so that they can achieve what they want. And he is the founder and CEO of Aqua Luxury Consulting. So thank you so much, Andy, and welcome.
Daniel, pleasure to be here. To all your listeners, hi, good afternoon, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, depending on where you're at, guys. So, pleasure to be on board, sir.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit initially, what is it and what do you mean, I guess, as far as helping people achieve what they want and getting them what they need? And tell us a little bit about Aqua Luxury Consulting.
Yeah, so Aqua Luxury Consulting is something that I like to think it's been 10 years in the making. And what I mean by that is my 10 plus years in the finance world, the industry world, corporate America, wherever you want to call it, and then discovering that I am worth more than the value someone else puts on me on a per hour basis. Right? That
Love that.
realization that like wake up, you're like, I'm worth more than this. And yeah, great. I sell a product or whatever service, get commission on top of that. I'm like, yeah, that's fantastic, but there's got to be more to it, right? So, my business helps those who have realized, I guess you could say that potential of more in them and have broken out of the corporate environment, whether voluntarily or involuntarily, as it does go these days. Reduction in force, I believe, is the key hot term for today, and they find themselves in a situation where they have to depend on what they have, Daniel, what they know, their skills, their background, their networking, their experiences, whatever, right? And they have to set up a business through that because of that, right? They're given no other choice, but hey, here's the plane, 35,000 feet up, pushed out the door. Good luck making the parachute on the way down,
That's right.
right? We've all
Make
heard
make the
that.
parachute on the way down. Yep.
Exactly.
And I
That
apologize. Is your it sounds like the audio is going in and out a little bit. Is that
You know
on
what?
the microphone?
That could be a mic thing. I could switch it back. Tell you what, let me switch it back to uh computer mic and we'll just roll it out of well, that better? There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, the proverbial method or metaphor of jumping out of a plane, which it does feel like. I am that guy who jumps with you. So you have a buddy on the way down. But on the way down, you discover what is that you need. Like, hey Andy, I got these skills, background, experiences, resume of this, that, the other. Corporate America didn't want me anymore, and I don't want corporate America anymore. Can you get me what I need so I can achieve this? Insert company, business, whatever. So that those that depend on me can enjoy a lifestyle that I can provide, right? Yes, is the answer to that, right? But that need is really dependent on that person, right? You're a one man army, Daniel. You look good in my camera. I love the background, the highlighted
Appreciate it.
bookshelf. It's stellar. I thank God for my background because you'd see a garage. But but your needs for your business are significantly different than somebody who's running an auto body shop
Absolutely.
with
Yeah.
six guys and a few $1 million worth of equipment and something he has to keep open and operating for the goodness of his clients, whereas you and I were in our comfy home in maybe slippers and wherever else. Our needs are a bit different. So when I approach a business owner or someone who's taking on their business, I do a basically a financial analysis. Hey, what do you have that you can leverage to get you to where you want to be? And it's a journey. I am not a McDonald's. I am not, hey, Andy, I'll take a number 2 with a life insurance policy in a Diet Coke. No, I'm not that guy. If you want quick, fast, and easy, I'm not that guy. I am, however, like I said, the guy who jumps with you outside the plane, and it's a bit of a journey. So that's, in a long answer, that's a lot of what I
That's great. So, and so I think the what a lot of people kind of think too is like when that kind of leaving corporate America, right? And it's always a journey. It's always a challenge, right? To really try to break out and do something like that. And I know because you've done that, right? Coming from the corporate world with a background, and some of those that know my story also coming from the corporate background, it is scary because the good news, I guess, or the good thing about a corporate job, while they may not value you as much as you
provide.
should be, right? Uh,
Preach
there
it.
is there is this kind of, call it a safety net, or just kind of the stability, and not always, right? There are layoffs and stuff, but there's this idea that if I don't perform super well, at least this month, maybe I still get a paycheck, right? Oh, I didn't do that much this time. Okay, but I still get the paycheck. So it just kind of, so you have this kind of runway, if you will, to say like, okay, well, I can change over time and get better. Whereas running your own business, it's like, wow, it's all on you. It's 100% on you.
Yep. Yeah. And and a lot of that starts with how you start. You can't just haphazardly do it. But to that point, yes, I know, hey, you're gonna fail and you're gonna make a lot of mistakes, and that's normal. Okay. So for anyone going through that process and their head is in their hands and they're up at 2 in the morning, or they're like crying over their product that broke for the 13th time, whatever, like that's you're par for the course, my friend. Give yourself some grace, give yourself a hug, whatever, go take a walk, take a deep breath. Like that's a normal thing. I stopped counting the number of times I messed up after, the upper three digits. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, I'm just learning. I'm learning. I was a master in one area, in one category in my corporate life, and now I'm a student in another. And that's okay because it's exciting too. It's okay, this is a new area. I have to think differently. I don't check in at 9 and check out at 5. I check in at 5 a.m. like I did today, and I will go to about 9 p.m. tonight. And that's a regular occurrence. But there is, to the character of this podcast, there is a way that you can start to make sure that the year, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 year from now self is sustained, but also thriving. Okay. So what is it that you can start today as a business owner, as a entrepreneur, as a former, corporate employee? And the way I think of it is like you're making a transition. You're from employee to CEO. Not a bad promotion in my head, right?
I would say that sounds pretty
Right.
good to anybody, I would assume.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds pretty good. Minus the six-figure paycheck, perhaps. But
Yeah.
hey, you have a card now that says, no, I'm no longer, associate cashier, cash register, whatever. You have
Cashier. Yeah.
John, Jennifer, Smith, Jones, whatever, CEO of insert business, Aqua Luxury, so on. So what is it again that you can do today to make sure that your future self, that your future leveled self, again, to the purposes of this podcast, is as successful as it can be? So you and I, on a previous conversation, I referenced a video game I'm playing now. I'm a gamer. I was born in the 80s. I came up with
Yep.
Nintendo and Zelda and,
Perfect.
all the
Yeah,
crap.
because and that was gonna be my question, because I know those listening, they always like to hear, from the non-gamer perspective to see how it can tie in, but absolutely love to hear from those have been and are gamers that understand and have been successful, right? Just because you play games doesn't mean that you're, just a lazy shut-in or something like the society wants you to think or something. It's like, no, you can be successful. So yeah, so tell me, yeah, about your gaming history.
So yeah, so I didn't have much of gaming coming up. Parents weren't into that. That wasn't what they grew up with. You were outside, wherever else.
But I came up with the classics, the Nintendo and the N64. And, my first console was a 16-bit Sega Saturn. Yeah.
Oh,
The
okay.
original Mortal Kombat, Echo, if you remember that Dolphin
Echo the
game, that
Dolphin.
was in
Yep.
there. Yeah, like that's what I came up with. And then I transferred to PCs, Dungeon Keeper, and if you guys remember the old PC Gamer magazines that came with the CD with 12 demos on it and whatever, right? That was me. That was me. So fast forward from 9, 10, 11 years old to 42 now almost. As I mentioned, I play a lot more RPGs these days, Skyrim, Elder Scrolls, Final Fantasy, things like that. I like the story, the graphic story is cool, etc. Point being is that when I restart a Skyrim game, let's say for example, right, Elder Scrolls for those not in the know, uh, you can decide what type of character you're going to be. Are you a wizard main, a warrior, a battle mage, an assassin archer, a whatever magic archer person, whatever, it's that type of mythical type of thing, right? But you make that decision game hour one because at level 20, if you concentrate on being a wizard, let's say, your magical powers are going to be just you're going to just blow through everything in the game. You summon this, that, the other creature, paralyze, you know, fear effect, whatever. Stone
Yep.
skin. You're going to lay down 6 spells within 5 seconds on every battle and just decimate everybody.
Yep.
So it's that predetermination of what, okay, I want to do this, but this is going to come in 20 level or 20 years. Mm-hmm. What can I do today to start making sure that that future event, 20 levels, 20 years, lifestyle happens in the best way possible, right? And so that's a lot of what I do with Aqua Luxury Consulting is that sit down financial analysis of like, okay, hey, look, Daniel, when you're 65, what do you see life be? Are you on the beach still, Southern California? Are you in Hawaii? Are you a snowbird with a house in Montana and a house in Florida? Like what
Yep.
like if life was a blank check, where would you be at 65? Right? Like completely. 3 kids in, couple grandkids, whatever. Great. So what are you doing today to do that though, other than podcasting and so on? And a lot of the answers I get is like, Andy, I'm just trying to make $1 to pay my cell phone bill. I'm like, well, that's good. I'm glad. And keeping food on the table, awesome. But that's not helping 20 years from now. So, and that's where I come in and sit down. Hey, if we do X, Y, and Z, you're going to get your ABCs of life. You know, Aqua to luxury.
And you make a very good point too. And I like the analogy as well with Skyrim and games like it, where you have this sense of choice, right? Because I think when we look at a lot of games that have this kind of class system, there are a lot of games where you're kind of locked in, right? Where you pick something at the start. Take like something kind of like a World of Warcraft, for example, where when you set your character, when you create your character, you choose your class. You cannot change it. You'd have
Hmm.
to make a whole new character if you wanted to do that. So there's games like that where you're just kind of on rails, if you will. And to your point, something like a Skyrim, uh, you get that choice where it's like, all right, you're going to level up. You get to choose where you put your skill points, and you can put them wherever you want. You can put them in a wide array of things, and you can say like, well, I'm going to be a jack of all trades. It's like, well,
Right.
the way it kind of scales, the way the power scales in the game, and games are different, so there may be differences, but typically something like in Skyrim, if you put a lot of points in a lot of different things, you're not going to be super powerful. You're going to be able to do lots of little things, but like you said, if you were able to focus, if you kind of narrowed your focus to say, all right, I am only an assassin archer, like you said, or I'm only a
Right.
wizard, you're going to be very, very powerful. Like, yeah, you're limited in, I guess, your skill set at that point, but it's going to be very, very powerful as a result. And so when we get into the rest of our lives, how when we take that same analogy, right? There's definitely people that propose that where it's like, hey, you can kind of learn and have a whole bunch of different skills and a whole array of things, but like to really get to the highest levels, it really takes like a focus, and like the best people in the world at certain, whether it's skills, musical instruments, even video games, right? They really play the same thing. They do the same thing to hone that level of skill.
I agree entirely.
Yep. So the question I have then too is that you hear a lot of I guess mixed messaging, and I wanted to get kind of your opinion of when you hear these kind of things where like growing up, it's like, well, you want to be a well-rounded individual, right? Or you go to like the early college where it's like, hey, you need to kind of, this baseline of classes that you have to take to kind of round yourself out. And I wanted to get kind of your opinion as far as like, so I'm supposed to round myself out or I'm supposed to focus? Like what's the deal here?
No, absolutely. And I think that depends on the person. You if you grew up wanting to be a doctor, you're going to medical school. If you want to be a veterinarian, you go to vet school. If you are a person of skill or of a trade that's really attractive, you go to that particular trade school. And that's your niche. That's what you're doing. That's what you've agreed to, put down and invested in, not just time, but money. And you are determined to be the best that it can be in that particular category. So that when somebody needs that particular service category, whatever, they call to you. And that's what's called a category leader. So Apple, that if you have an iPhone, I have an iPhone, didn't start out in the telephone business.
Not at
They
all.
started a computer business. But if you tell me, if you say Apple, my mind goes to phones. I pick up my cell phone. I don't pick up my Apple computer, sort of thing. So, not saying that people can't change. I know a lot of people went to college, got one degree, and doing something completely different now. And that's
Very good
the
point.
choice and power of free will. You can do wherever you want. But, and there's a big but, if you are anything like me with a family and a mortgage and so on and so forth, you have some responsibility that you just can't, you know, haphazardly general knowledge skill base of everything and make a half decent living. You need to focus. You need to agree that, okay, I am good at this, this, and this. Myers-Briggs comes to mind. If you're not sure what you're good at, take a Myers-Briggs test and then say, okay, I like doing this. This brings me happiness. I can wake up every day and do it. I don't feel like, I'm selling my soul, X, Y, and Z. And I can make a decent living at it and support those that I love. Right. Pretty straightforward. Um, in relation to games, yeah, Skyrim again, your character can be a little bit of everything, smithing, lock picking, conjuration, whatever, right? There's
Yep.
there's 2 dozen characteristics you can pick from. But yeah, if you throw all your points into lock picking, let's say, you're going to be able to pick any lock by level 5. But your defense and your smithing is going to suffer, and you're going to be wielding an iron sword for the first 10 levels,
Mhm.
whatever, So to those listening that are like, okay, hey Andy, I hear you. I got this job. It's miserable. I'm dying in my cubicle. What can I do? Yeah, I can start off figuring out what you enjoy. Myers-Briggs test, if you really want to go that way. And there's a few other personality tests out there. Do that first. Get an idea. It's not hard. I'll take that back. It's not easy starting over,
Hmm.
but it is more satisfying to start over and do something that you like and love rather than slug it out for 20, 30 years in the cubicle, wake up one day, be 65, look back and be like, damn, I wish I would have blank. So
Right. And is that what you feel happened to you as far as working the corporate environment and then getting to a point where you're saying like, wait a minute, is this it? Is this all I'm doing?
um
How'd you make that transition?
no, I appreciate that. No, it was a little bit of divine intervention is the way I like to think about it. Corporate environment decided they didn't need my or valued me anymore. as it happens perhaps to a number of your listeners that, hey, one day thought I was good, walked in, manager called me in, say, hey, we appreciate your time, effort, energy, but your services are no longer needed. And you don't know. You scratch your head. You're like, what did I do? I hit my numbers. I'm great customer service. Whatever the condition is, it doesn't matter. You're gone. You're done. And so you can, I took it as a bit of a divine intervention, saying, you know what, this isn't the end of my story. I still have a lot to give to the world. I'm 42 years old or young, depending on your perspective. And
Absolutely.
I said, okay, let me do my own thing. I have significant licenses, financial, history, skills, knowledge, experience, so on, that as I sat in my corporate job for the longest time, I looked out into the world and saw this massive gap niche of people who, again, like me and like you, came from corporate America, want to do their own thing, whether voluntarily left or not, and they don't know how to approach it correctly or financially sound. So again, their 20 year from now self is actually thriving and not just surviving, you know. So yeah, it was one of those, um coincidental moments of like, okay, I can either let this destroy me or I can let it burn me and I come back as a phoenix sort of thing, which I feel wholeheartedly that I have. And
That's awesome.
yeah. And to those, as I'll end it here, to those of your listeners who did that for years, who have children, like I do, I have three, who saw them maybe in the morning, maybe in the evening, and then Saturdays and Sundays was family time, to get together. I didn't want to be a weekend dad anymore. I didn't want to see my kids 2 days a week. I'm married and all that. I wanted to be there and walk 20 feet and say, hey, man, you want to go catch the ball or frisbee between my meetings? In corporate America, I didn't have that. And I don't want them growing up not seeing me around as much. So there's nothing that someone could put on the check to buy me out from spending time with my kids. So my two
Yeah.
cents on that one.
No, I love that because it just changes kind of your goals and your perspective when you have these kind of things that you're looking for. So you brought up something really interesting too, though, is that when you left, the unfortunate circumstances maybe to where you had to leave, but you actually got to carry the skills with you. And I forget how much we talked about that beforehand too, where yeah, we talked a little bit about yeah, you might have to start over, but the good news is you don't have to start from zero, right?
Correct.
Because you get to start with your skills, you get to start with your the knowledge that you bring with you. And in gaming, we like to call that new game plus, right? You get
Yes.
to we get to start over, but we get to carry some amount of our skills or abilities with us, and we get to play again. So I like the idea of like the new game plus in life, where it's like, all right, well, you're gonna, unfortunate you got laid off or whatever it is, and you're like, okay, well, you're no longer with that company, you have to go do something else now. It's like, well, I got to start all over. Well, you don't have to. You get to start with the skills and knowledge that you bring with you, and that has just been such an eye opener for me too. Like like it's starting this as far as between the podcast and the Dragonmore XP business, where you're just helping and coaching fellow gamers and just professionals, business owners to say like, look, you get to carry the skills with you, and then just like the added additional element for the stuff that I bring, where it's like, and you get to bring the skills that you've learned in video games into the rest of your
Yeah.
life. It's so cool and so fun.
No, absolutely. I completely agree. It's it's experience. You get killed in the game. Dark Souls probably comes to mind. Perhaps arguably the most gamer rage game ever created. You
Creates
know,
a lot of rage.
like,
Yes, it does.
right? Yeah, it's up. It's got to be up
It's
there,
got to be up
and
there.
it's got to be up there, man. But every time you die and you restart, you're like, okay, dodge here didn't move. I need a dodge there now. Okay, that sort of thing. And again, it goes back to as in life, you mess up. You're going to mess up. You're a business owner. That's par for the course. But you one learn from prior experience. Number one, two, and I'm gonna give a cheat here to all your listeners. Read a book by someone who did what you're doing before you and see where they went
Mm.
wrong. I'm a big reader. Probably cleared over 100 books last year. 30 some odd in now, the audiobooks, but that's just me. I make it a point to learn from other consultants and other advisors who have traveled the path that I'm walking on, so I don't repeat the same mistakes that they made. You can cheat in this game and learn from those who hacked the path before you so you don't trip on the route and lose thousands of dollars or wherever else. You can
Yeah.
do that. That's allowed.
That's
You have a God code, my friends. Pick up a book, read it, do something, podcasting, whatever, consulting, X, Y, and Z. There's a book for everything out there. Go grab one. I get my books from the local library. It's free.
it is amazing how much, yeah, there's so much information out there, right? That you and that's a very good point where we have the real life cheat codes where you can just learn from other people's mistakes. You're like, oh, well, I don't have to do I don't have to do what they did because I'll just, model their success, or I'll just like, because that's what we talk about and sometimes in the business world, right? Is, model success. How did they succeed, right? I think one of the famous Tony Robbins quotes is, success leaves clues. So it's like,
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love that.
so just kind of follow the trail to see like, okay, well, what worked and what didn't, because you don't have
Yeah,
to go through the trial and error. You don't have to waste years, literal years of your life trying to figure out what to do when you can just read the book that says like, hey, this is how I did it, and you're like,
right.
I can take this and this and this and just shortcut and avoid the mistakes and just go for the success parts. And you
Exactly.
make a very good point that it's like, and oh, by the way, it's legal and a lot of times it's free.
Yeah, exactly. No, 100%. How many times have you got to a game part and it just couldn't get past the trap, couldn't find the secret latch, and you logged into YouTube and you're like, hey, I need help with XYZ, part in the game. There's dozens and dozens of people who've done it before you. You just cheated, right, by learning from
Yeah.
someone who did it before you did. Same way it works with life, man. Same thing is what I do. I sat down again through with so many business owners through COVID and prior, but COVID especially hard for everybody. Whether you made $8 an hour or 8 million a year, it affected everybody. And I had to sit with business owners to try to help them weather through that season. That it wasn't months, it was years. And a lot of businesses I talked to didn't make it. So what do you do today so that if COVID 2.0 hits next month, next year, next 5 years, whatever, that you're already starting to prepare today to survive through that and maybe even thrive through that? I've met a lot of business owners who thrived through COVID.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Made more money during COVID than prior to COVID.
And sometimes it just takes a minor shift because like, all right, things are changing, and as they say, you have to change with them, right? Ride the wave, as it were, right? So if you
Exactly.
just stand there and wait, you're just gonna get hit. You're gonna get crushed.
You're going to get rickrolled, my friend.
Oh
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
for sure. So a question I had, I know for a lot of the listeners, and going back kind of the sustainability, right? And some people are in that situation where they're like living that paycheck to paycheck. And so
Right,
I think there's definitely some people that are very interested in what you have to say and what you do. And they're like, man, I would love to work with you. This is great. But I am living paycheck to paycheck. Like I have to put food on the table. Like how can someone like me living paycheck to paycheck can can get ahead? Like I'm just
right.
stuck in the rat race.
That is a $64,000 question, my friend. Your life is determined by the amount of money that you bring in, or limited to it, perhaps. If you make 5 grand a month, your lifestyle is within that 5K, period. Bills, mortgage, kids, gas in the car, beer on the weekends, whatever. Your lifestyle is capped at 5K a month. Okay. So now what do you do? Again, this goes back to skill sets, enjoyment factor. You don't want to just hack and slack your way through whatever, in life. A lot of people these days have two jobs. I know a guy who works full time and then turns around and works at the local hardware store 12 hours a week just to make ends meet. I'm like, well, that's sucks. That's time away from his kid and so on, just to maintain his lifestyle, right? And I'm in Southern California, and yeah, I'll be the first to tell you it's not cheap down here, but you're you're having to make these sacrifices to make more money to live this lifestyle. My approach to that is, what can you do in its entirety of a day to make that money to exceed the lifestyle or get to the lifestyle that you want, not just the one that you can afford. Okay. And that's a real deep rabbit hole. And I'm going to go ahead and reference a little chat GPT into that. So something I've created, and for your listeners who want to reach out to me, I created a resume to CEO, employee to business owner uh, prompt for people who are like, Andy, I'm sick of my job, or Andy, I just got laid off. I have all these skills. I have this resume. What can you help me figure out what I'm good at so I don't have to work two jobs? Or I can leverage what I have and make six figures instead of 5K a month. Yes, come reach out to me. I have this resume to business owner prompt that you can follow. I did it. I would be doing this anyways, but what it kicked back to me was pretty much exactly what I'm doing now, which is just crazy. And they can reach out to me, free service. To all your listeners, reference Daniel, reference the podcast in the subject line or whatever. Hit up on my calendar, my schedule. I'll give it to you free. And it provides clarity to the problem that is your indecision. What do I do? You need clarity. Let's work through this prompt, ChatGPT prompt, give you that clarity so that you can make that decision. What happens is people are confused because there's not clarity. There's not a clear answer. When you step into the world of entrepreneurship and business ownership, clarity is a godsend. It really is. It's one of
Really?
those, golden eggs. So like I said, I help create a lot of that clarity for people.
That's fantastic. And yeah, I cannot echo enough to those looking to get into starting your own thing, being a business owner, entrepreneur. Clarity really is power. Having that clarity, because I know I've been stuck for months on certain things, and then as soon as I had clarity, I got more done in a week than I did in like multiple months. And it's just like it's amazing when you have that level of clarity that you can just move forward. So kudos to you, Andy, for putting that together, and we'll definitely have that for you guys in the show notes in the description where you can connect with that. And I guess yeah, as we wind down this particular episode, Andy, so I love that. We'll definitely get as far as the Chat GPT kind of stuff for our listeners. And where can people reach out to you, I guess, more directly if they want to connect?
Yeah, sure. So pretty much the website for this purpose is Aqua Luxury Consulting, kind of like it sounds, AQUA, Luxury, LUXURY, consulting.com. That website is up and running now. It is being a facelift here within a week, so it's going to look a lot better. But it does have my calendar, my booking, my email, everything that you need to get a hold of me. There are a few videos on there for people who would like to see me kind of in person. They are not glamorous in any way. I'm actually in shorts, boots, t-shirt by a creek. So
Love it.
authenticity is a big factor for me. But yeah, check it out. Love, hate me, whichever way. But for those people that are out there that need that clarity, need someone to talk to of, hey, Andy got this idea, or hey, Andy, I just got laid off, or hey, Andy, I want to quit and just throw my computer out the window and I'm on the sixth floor. Um, Come talk to me before you do that. I don't promise I'm Dr. Phil, but like I said, a little clarity goes a long way. And if I can provide that for you, that flashpoint, we can continue the conversation after that.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Andy. Awesome, fantastic. And for those looking, interested, if you're looking to move on from the corporate environment, starting your own thing, I think Andy be a great resource for you. And if you're looking to just improve your own skill set, especially if you're sticking with your current job, maybe you like it, maybe it's fun, maybe you just want to move further faster, definitely let me know. I'm here to help as well, helping gamers just reach their full potential, utilizing and leveraging their gaming skills into their careers. And definitely check me out at dragonmorexp.com if you're interested to learn more. So, gosh, Andy, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. And I just had one final question before we go that I ask everyone, which of course is, what is your favorite video game?
Hey, I will forever die on this hill. Final Fantasy VIII. I
Eight?
don't care. 20 years from now, I'll be 60 and I'll still play that game. And it's the card game that gets me every time. So it has a bit of a nostalgic feel for me. So yes, Final Fantasy VIII, my good sir.
Final Fantasy, yeah, I love, yeah, Triple Triad was definitely my favorite part of that game for sure
Yes,
too.
sir.
Good
Yes, sir.
stuff.
Daniel, it's been a real pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Absolutely. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, guys, stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.